The house no longer felt still. It breathed now, slow and cold, each breath pulling dust from corners and whispering secrets through the cracks. Sarah hadn't slept. The bone under her pillow burned cold even in her clenched hand. Her name, etched into the tiny surface, seemed deeper than any carving. She sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the candlelight flickering on the wall. It felt like something was waiting. In the living room, Timothy lit another cigarette with trembling fingers. He hadn't spoken much since the ritual. The bone had shaken him. But it wasn't just fear. It was recognition. Beth stormed in, her red miniskirt wrinkled, boots dusty from pacing outside. "We need answers," she snapped. "That thing, that girl in the fire. She's not just angry. She's part of this house." Patrick appeared behind her, quiet, holding the old Bible again. He placed it on the table. "Grandpa used to take long walks into the forest every week, remember?" he said. Sarah nodded slowly. "He said he was feeding the gods." They looked at each other. Inside the Bible, a brittle letter was folded between psalms. Timothy opened it with care. The ink was faded, but the words were sharp. "If the bloodline lives, the debt must be paid." Beneath it was a wax seal in the shape of a twisted tree. Another paper slipped from the back, a photo which was old and black and white. In that photo, their grandfather was shaking hands with a faceless figure in a foggy forest. A small child was standing in the corner of the frame, watching them. "That's Naomi, our forgotten sister," Sarah whispered. Patrick turned the photo over. The photo was dated 1953. That was decades before they were born. They were all wrong to think that Naomi was Patrick's twin sister. Outside, the wind howled, the windows creaked, and the forest stirred. They followed the path on the old map that had been drawn in blood. The trees loomed tall and silent. And just as they reached the edge of the clearing, Sarah fell to her knees. She heard voices calling to her from under the roots. The voices were laughing and crying. She pressed her hands tight against her ears, but the noises only got louder. In front of them was a forest clearing. At the center of the clearing stood a twisted tree, its bark gnarled like veins, and its trunk split wide like a mouth. A stone altar waited at its roots. On the altar was a book bound in skin. Beth picked it up, her hands shaking. The pages whispered. Timothy stepped back. "This is older than the house," he said in a shaky voice. A gust of wind tore the book from Beth's hands. It flung open midair and slammed against the altar. The pages turned themselves faster and faster, then stopped. Then blood bloomed from the paper, and the name, Sarah, appeared. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. She dropped the bone, and it rolled to the edge of the altar and began to glow. Then the ground trembled. Roots burst from beneath, grabbing Sarah's legs. Beth screamed. Patrick ran forward, hacking at them with a broken branch, and Timothy tried to pull her free. Sarah gasped, and the roots vanished. But the altar was gone and the ground smooth again. Only the glowing bone remained. Back at the house, they found a fresh mark on the wall. It was a symbol, same as the wax seal. That night, Sarah lay in bed again. This time the whispering returned, but not in her head. It came from under the bed. The soft voices cooed and hissed. She leaned down and saw eyes. Not hers, but Naomi's. The bone had returned to her pillow. This time, it was cracked. Beth locked the door and sat beside her and asked, "What do they want?" Timothy had the answer. They wanted payment. He had found a hidden page in the book. Their grandfather made a pact with a forest spirit, a guardian who granted prosperity to the family in exchange for sacrifice. Each generation owed a blood debt. But they had forgotten, or chosen not to remember. Now Naomi was the collector. The lights flickered, the house groaned, and the lockbox opened again. Inside was a braid of white hair, a baby tooth, a child's shoe, and a new note that read, "She was the first payment, but she wasn't enough." Patrick punched the wall, shouting, "We were kids! We didn't know!" Sarah whispered, "But she did. She remembered." Thunder shook the roof, and then from the hallway came the footsteps that were soft and wet. Beth grabbed the candle, and then she saw a ghostly figure. It was their mother, who had died 20 years ago. She was standing still, her feet inches above the floor and her eyes empty, white and wrong. She smiled, but it wasn't her smile.